Hey coders, welcome back to my channel. The video that you are currently watching is part of a series where we are building a full stack web application using PHP. This web application is about realtor services, so basically buying and selling houses or renting houses. We have already completed its front end and currently we are working on the back end. In our previous video, we learned how to integrate a templating engine called Twig with the PHP. In this video, we are going to pick up where we left off in the previous video. The page that you are currently viewing is part of demo project. This is the project that we are currently working on. Now let's come to the code editor and see what we need to do next. So this is our code editor. Let me close these files. Okay, so this is the current state of our project. Last we were working on, we basically created this Twig service and then we created an instance of that Twig service and used it in Home controller. So over here we are creating an instance and assigning it to this Twig protected variable or protected property of Home controller, and at the bottom over here we are rendering our view using Twig, and to this rendering method we are passing two parameters, the name of the view and the data that it needs to integrate in the page. Now we have to sort of clean this up. So basically in the current state, if we continue with the current state, what we will have to do is that this is Home controller. So if we have, let's say, 10 home controllers, then for each of those home controllers, we have to create a protected property for for any controller that we have. And then we have to define a constructor so that we can get an instance of this Twig service and assign it to that protected property. And only then at the bottom, we can use the render method of the Twig to actually display the data or to view the page using the Twig templating engine. Now, if you notice over here, this part is also verbose. If we like, we can simplify this part as well. So we are using this keyword, then the property Twig, and on that we are calling the method render. So if we like, we can simplify it to this thing like that as well. So this is what we are going to do in this video. But before we do that, let's go back to our demo project and see how many controllers we might need in our project. So as you can see, this is our landing page. We need to have a controller which will handle everything to do with this home page. Then we are going to need another controller which is going to handle everything which is related to these properties which are available for rent. And then we need another one which is going to handle the properties which are available to be sold. We also have other services, but we are not going to get into those details. And finally, let's go back to the rent and click on any property. Now this is the property page which gives us the details about one specific property. So we also need a controller for this kind of page as well. So we are definitely going to have at least 4 pages. So why not create controllers for those pages so that we can see how can we simplify the Twig service in each of those controllers. So in this controllers page, we have already 2 controllers, Home controller and property controller. We need to create 2 more, one for the renting services and one for the properties that are available in the market to be sold. So let's create 2 more controllers. Rent controller. And let's create BuyController. Okay, now we have to figure out how can we simplify this project instead of repeatedly reusing this part in every controller, like this use statement and then this protected property, and then in the constructor we are assigning the instance to this protected property. So we are going to simplify it such that it's just defined once and then all of these controllers will have that property. So for that, what we are going to do is that, okay, so now in the source folder we have another folder named core where we are going to define a main controller which will be the parent controller from which all of these controllers over here will be extending from. So currently this is empty. We are going to create a file named controller.php. Now this controller will contain the core logic which is going to be common for all the controllers. So let's start with defining the namespace. Now we are in the source folder. So we have 2 namespaces. So starting with the source folder, we have this core folder. So this is the namespace. Now let's define the class controller. And this one needs this protected, basically everything which we have in the home folder. So what I'm going to do is that, okay, so because we have to use the realtor service there, so I'm going to cut this part and bring it in the controller folder, controller class. So we are using Twig service, which is inside the realtor services namespace. Now we have to cut this part as well. So the protected property and the constructor, and paste it in the controller. Then if we want to simplify this thing over here as well, make this less verbose. So for that, what we are going to do is that over here, we are going to define another function. Let's give it the same name, render. It takes two parameters, view and data. Then within the body, let's copy this thing and paste it over here. So this echo this twig render. Now for this part over here, what we are going to do is that let's remove this home and concatenate the view parameter. So whatever name we receive as a view, we will attach our twig with it, and the second parameter is whatever data we receive, we pass it along. So we can also give it a default value, empty array. This way, if we don't have any data to send to this to the view, we can, in the controllers, we can remove this second parameter. Now, since we have attached the .twig in the controller over here, we can remove it from here as well. So we only need to give the name of the controller, and now we can remove this thing as well. And since our controller's function has this echo method, so we can remove this echo from here as well. So we are simply calling the render method. Okay. First thing that we have to do is that we have to bring in the controller that we just created. So it's in the namespace source core, and then the name is controller, and make the home controller extend it. Okay, so now our home controller is extending the controller. This means whatever logic is defined over here is basically defined over here as well. So as a result, we also have protected variable or property that controller has for the home controller as well. And this constructor gives us the instance twig. And then at the very end, we are just using this render, and currently we have actually data. So let's pass in the data and see if we are able to see the previous page that we are viewing without any glitches. So let's refresh it, and if we still see the same result, that means the changes that we made are working fine. Okay, so we didn't see any problem, so that means we are able to see the data. Now let's go back to the home.twig and see what contents do we have there. So in the views folder, there is this view home.twig. Okay, so what if we don't send any data? So this is currently displaying the data, but since it's an if block, so we should be able to do this, and let's see what happens. So either it will work just fine, or it will give us an error that this variable, this transactions, is not defined. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we didn't get any error, so it's fine. Okay. So now, as you notice, for our controllers, we have made these things quite simple. If we have data, we will pass in the second parameter over here. If we don't have, we just pass in the name of the view, and we don't even have to attach the .twig extension because all of this logic has been moved to this controller. Okay, so this part is done. Now what shall we do next? So what we are going to do is that we are going to bring in the front end pages and integrate over here in this views folder and convert them, because currently they are plain HTML. So we are going to convert them into Twig views. So if you have already followed me and completed the front end, you can simply copy those pages over here, which I'll show you in a minute. But if you haven't yet completed that project and you just want the code, then you can go to buymecoffee.com, and this is my page, buymecoffee.com/CS with NJ. If you like my content and you want to buy me a coffee, you can buy me 1, 2, 3 or as many cups as you like. If not, then you go to the shop, and over here I have some products. One of them is this website for real estate agents, front end with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. You can buy this project, download the code, and then come back to the project. Okay, so this is real and front end whole project. We have some HTML files, scripts and style files. So basically you are going to need all of this. Choice is yours, whatever route you want to take, but you need to have this code. So once you have got it, now we are ready to convert this into Twig templates. Okay, so before we start copy pasting it, let's go back to the demo project and figure out the strategy. So this is our demo project. Now, if you notice, it has this menu bar, and at the very bottom, we also have a footer over here. If you go back to the home page, again, we have the same menu bar. And if you go to any other pages, we still have the same menu bar. So this is the part which keeps repeating, and this footer as well. So what we are going to do is that, first of all, we are going to extract the parts that are common to all the pages into one separate file called layout. Then the rest of the pages will be extending those pages. This way, we only have to define this logic once, and thanks to Twig inheritance, we can make the same contents part of every page without repeating it into every view or every page. So to do that, the Twig templating engine has a concept called extends. So Twig for templates. Yeah, Twig for template designers. Okay. We need to look for extends. Okay, so over here, the first thing we have to define a block, something like this, which will only contain the header and footer part. And for the body, we will define one block. Then for the rest of the views, first thing that we will do is that we will be extending that page using this extends element. And over here, we have to define the name of the view that we are extending from. Then the rest of the block will contain the elements which are specific to that particular page. So let's get started. So the first thing that we are going to do is that in the views folder, we are going to create another view, and let's call it layout.twig. Now in this one, we are going to copy paste the header and footer from the front-end project. So this is our index.html. So I'm going to copy everything which is part of this page and paste it over here. Okay, Now let's delete everything between this header and footer parts. So this is the start of the header. Okay, and this is the end. So everything in between this header and footer elements. Let's delete, save it, and let's go to the home.twig and delete everything over here. And the only thing that we are going to do is that we are going to define extends block over here. So now we have to define the name of the template. So name that we just gave is layout.twig. Now if you notice, where is it? Okay, so this script doesn't exist in our folder, script.js file. Likewise, this style file doesn't exist in our folder. So we won't be seeing any styling in our demo, in our project that we are working on. However, we should be able to see the elements of this menu bar. So this is our project. Let's refresh it. And now you can see this is the logo. Then these two elements are for the smaller screens, and this is our menu, and this is the footer that we are currently seeing. So we have now successfully extended the layout page. Now we have to figure out how can we include the contents which are specific to this home folder. So for that, what we are going to do is that in the Twig's layout page, over here, we have to create a block. So you have to give any name to this block. Let's give it page contents, or let's make it view contents. Okay, so now this layout contains a block which doesn't have any data or any contents. It's just an empty block, but this block exists, and using the name of the block, we can define new contents for each page that is extending from this layout page. So let's go back to the home page. Now we know that this layout page contains a block named view content. So we are going to use this block. The name is view contents. Now within the body of this view contents, we can define anything. So let's make it lorem 20. Okay, so this is currently the contents. We can enclose it into a paragraph as well, or let's enclose it within a div. Now refresh. Now you can see the contents. This is a part which is coming from the home view. The rest are coming from the layout view, from which the home view is extending. So we are seeing the data from both of these pages. This particular part is going to be unique to this home page. The rest is going to be part of every page. Now before we work on bringing these styles back, we have to see, have we defined the routes for rest of the pages? I don't think we have defined the routes. So let's go and define those routes. The routes are in this router, no, sorry, they are in the index.php. Okay. So before we define the routes, we have to fix this thing over here. Now, if you go to the demo project, now if you notice, if we don't have any URL, just the domain name, we are still able to see the landing page. But for the demo page, if I remove this home, now we see an error that we have an undefined array key URL, because if there is nothing over here, this URL is not defined. So there is nothing over there. So we have to fix this problem. So basically over here, we have to say if this part is null, then give it a default value. So to make it happen, we are going to include this double question marks and then some default value, which is going to be home. Let's verify. And we got the same data that we were getting when we had this home over here. So now this has been fixed. Now let's go and define the routes. So when we click on this rent, the route becomes rent. When we click on buy, the route becomes buy. And if we click on any property, the route is property followed by the ID of the property. So this part is dynamic, but we have covered this in our previous videos. So we have get home for which will return the index method of home controller. Then let's comment this out for the time being because we don't know if we are going to use this post route. We don't have any test router either. So comment this out as well. Now let's define router get, and when the route is rent, the controller is going to be rent controller that we have already defined, and the method, let's make it index as well. Let's copy paste it. Now when the route is buy, then the controller which will handle this request is BuyController, and the method is going to be index there as well. Now the third one is going to be when the route is properties/id, the controller is property IDs. Okay, so we have already done this part. Okay. So now we have routes. Now let's go to the views part and define some views. Then, or what we are going to do is that let's go to the home controller. Okay, now we don't need this data. The data that we placed over here was only for the purposes of the previous video to show different aspects of Twig syntax. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we are going to copy everything and let's go to the BuyController, paste it over here and change the name of the controller from home to buy. And this will render us buy.twig view because this is BuyController. Now let's go to the rent controller, paste everything and change the name to rent controller and change the name over here to rent as well. For the property, we have this. Okay, we have done some bits over here already. Now let's go to the views and let's define two more views. Buy.twig and rent.twig. Now this is again going to extend the layout twig or layout template, and then this one also have block named view contents. Now within the body, let's bring in paragraph. You are currently on the rent page. Control all, copy. Let's go to the buy, paste it over here and change from rent page to buy page. And for the home, we have different contents. Okay. Now let's go to our project. Instead of home, let's turn it to rent. Undefined variable route on index line 10 in index.php line 10. What just happened? Okay, so we don't have route, we have router ER. Okay. Let's refresh. Okay, so we are seeing the header, the footer, and the contents from the rent page. You are currently on the rent page. Let's click on buy. You are currently on the buy page, and the others are working anyways. Property, let's look at the contents of 1, and in property ID 1, the ID of the property shown is 1. Let's change the ID to 3, and we are seeing the ID number 3. So our routes has been fixed. We have defined controllers as well as views. Now we have to fill data into them. So before we do that, let's bring in our style file and make this look something like this. Okay. So let's come back to the front-end project. Now we have this images folder, then we have JavaScript files, and we have the style files as well, CSS. We have 2 CSS files, 2 JS files, and we need this images folder as well. So let's come to our project, and in the public folder, let's create another folder named Assets. Now this is going to contain 3 folders. So let's create those folders. In the Assets folder, we need to have one images folder, and script folder, we need one more style folder. So we have 3 folders. From the demo folder, let's copy everything in the style.css file, and in the style folder, let's create style.css file and paste everything back here. Okay, so we have this style file. Now we have to go back to the layout page and change the path for the style file. So in the layout page, we have this route. Now our style file is inside the views folder, which is inside the source folder, and the assets folder is inside the public folder. So over here, let's start with the root folder. So slash, this is the root folder. From there, we have to go to the public folder. The public folder is the top folder. So slash, then public, and there we have a folder named assets. And then style, and then style.css. So another folder named style, and within that folder we have style.css. Let's verify. Let's refresh. Nothing happened. Oh, we need to add this realtor-backend folder as well, because that's the root. realtor-backend/public. Okay, let's verify now. Okay, we got it. And so we are now able to see the style elements, but since we don't have any contents for the actual page, so our footer has also gone behind the header. Why this happens has already been explained in one of the videos. Anyhow, let's go back to the project. So now we have successfully attached our style file with the layout page. Let's verify other as well. So let's click on rent. We have there as well. Buy and property ID. Okay, we haven't got any footer and header defined there. Basically, this one doesn't extend the layout page yet, so that's why there's nothing over here. So let's fix that first. Okay, so we haven't defined any view for the property details page as well. So let's define a view property.twig. Click on something home, Control Alt, Control C, and paste it to Twig. Paste it over here. Now let's go back to the controller. Property controller. And over here we are going to use this render. We have to make it extend controller as well. For that, first use the namespace. So use realtor. It's defined in the realtor, right? No, use source core controller and make this property controller, extend this controller. So now we have this render method, and using that we are going to use the view. What is the name of the view? The name of the view is property. And as a data, we are going to pass in ID. So let's go back to the property twig and property being viewed has ID, $ID. So in order to display variables in twig, double curly brackets and ID. Refresh. Unexpected token on property controller line 9. Okay, no semicolon over here. Refresh. It says argument 2 must be of type array, string given. Okay, so over here it's saying, let's go to the property controller. So over here it's saying, over here an array is expected, but we are passing in a string. So why it's expecting an array? It's because if we go to the controller page, to the controller class. So if you notice, the default value or the initial value is an empty array. So this data is supposed to be an array. So what we are going to do is that let's go back to the property controller and over here pass this as an array. So cut it, square brackets, and now the index name, let's give it ID, and its value is variable ID. So now we have converted this into an array. So hopefully now this error will disappear. Okay, so error has disappeared, but so is the text. We can't see any text, and I have a feeling it's because the text has moved behind this header element. So we will fix this thing eventually, but for the time being, what we are going to do is that let's bring in lorem 500, so 500 words. Refresh, and now you can see this text, and then the property being viewed has the ID 3. And our footer has moved up as well. Okay, so this has been sort of sorted out. Now what we need to do is that we are going to bring in the images into our working project, and then we will try working on the pages, starting with the home page. Okay, so I've got these images in the images folder now. Okay, so now we have images in the images folder. Now in the style, we have this style as well. And now what we need to do is that let's go and have a, okay. So now what we are going to do is that we are going back to the project we are working on. This is index page. And what do we have after the, okay, we have this hero section. So let's copy this part and see. Let's go to the home file, home.twig. Okay. And delete it and paste this section, hero section, over here and see if it's working properly. Okay, so it is working properly. However, we can't see the image. So maybe the image is still missing, but why? Oh, I know why. So let's go back to the style file and let's look for background. Okay, over here we have to provide the image. Okay, so in the hero section we have to provide the name of the image. So what shall we provide? Starting with Realtor backend, public, assets, images. Let's use this path.jpg. Let's see if we are able to see the images. Path1.jpeg. Let's refresh. and we can see the image. However, we have to now change the image. We want this image to be the landing page image, so we are going to use one of these images. So RealEstate Pro JPEG, let's use this one. RealEstate Pro .jpg. Okay, something wrong with the spelling, I'm sure. Oh, A is missing, and then this A is extra. Okay, so we are able to see the image. I don't know what's the name of this image. So the name of this is RealEstate Pro 15. Okay, Pro 15, 1.5. Refresh. Okay, we have got the same image. Okay, so our hero section is done. Now let's move on to the next section. Let's ignore buy and rent for the time being. Let's go to the services. We have this data. This is constant data, so we are going to bring this one as well. So this is our front end. After the hero section, we have featured. So after hero section, we have featured section. So this will list dynamic properties. Okay, what we are going to do is that we are going to bring in all the sections. Copy. Let's close these. Rent.twig, BuyController, buy.twig. We don't need index.php now. Property controller, we don't need it at the moment. Let's close this controller as well. Style, layout, we don't need this one either. Let's go to the home controller, and after the hero section, let's paste everything back into this block. The view contents block. Okay. Let's refresh, and now let's go down and see what is happening. So this is featured listing, but because this data is going to be dynamic, okay. Okay, so we don't have the background images. However, the listings are dynamic. So our project will not have, because we are not yet connected with the database. Then services, this should be static. And then this is also static. Okay. So what we are going to do is that we are going to start with the background image for the feature listing. So let's go to the demo project. Let's go to the featured, and let's look at the name of the background image. The name of the image is RealEstate Pro 5. Let's go to the style and let's keep looking for featured. Okay, the URL is going to be pasted over here. The name is RealEstate Pro 5. Refresh, and we have got the background image for the featured. Now then services. Let's look for the third URL. It's with services, so paste it over here and change it from 15 to 12. Paste and save. Refresh, but we should be able, oh, okay. We are not seeing the contents over here because they will be visible. They will be made visible dynamically through JavaScript, and we haven't yet brought in the JavaScript. This is about us. We were on the services one. Okay, so this is services. Inspect. It's 13, RealEstate Pro 13. Change it to 13. Refresh, and these are our services. However, these parts will appear dynamically. So we need JavaScript, which we don't have at the moment anyways. So this is services. We have covered featured, and now about us. This is, what was the name of this one? 12. Let's look for the fourth URL. So this is about is 12, RealEstate Pro 12. Now let's refresh first. then about us. Okay. Now for the contact us. Oh, this is the image, which is just RealEstate Pro. So let's look for the next URL. This is part of contact us. Paste it over here and just remove this 15. Okay, so now we've got this as well. So now what we need to do is that we have to bring these things. So we have to bring them. They will be made visible dynamically. So we have to bring in the JavaScript, and for the featured, these properties also made visible dynamically, about us, and then contact us. Okay. So let's go back to the front-end project. We have script.js file. So copy everything. Let's go to our project. This is script. Let's create script.js and paste everything over here. Okay, now let's go back to the layout file. Let's copy this part. Let's come down. Paste it over here. Then after the assets, we have a folder named script, and there we have this script.js file. So save this. Let's save it once more. And now this is our project, and you can see the dynamic contents are visible as well. Let's click on services, and you can see these elements are visible as well. And we can see this animation as well. Featured, we won't be able, okay, we are seeing because these contents are present statically, so we are able to see them as well. Featured, then about us, and contact us. Sorry, this is the demo project. Okay, so we already see the contact us with the background. Let's go to the home. Okay, now let's refresh it once more, then click on featured. Now, since the data is currently static, so we can see them. However, because the image path is incorrect, so we can't see the images over here. Okay. Then from the feature, then click on services. Now you can see the data which was previously missing. And this one is also previously missing, but now the image is not there because we have to fix the path and then contact us. Okay. So we have to fix this image. So let's inspect this. It's in the container, about container. Let's go to the home.twig. Let's look for about. Okay, this is container, this is image. So now we have to provide the path. So let's paste this over here, Realtor, backend, assets, images, and then we have to look at the name of the image. So this is the image that we need. Inspect it. front1.jpg. front1.jpg. Okay, let's refresh. Now about us. Okay, the image is over here as well. Okay, so this is the about us. Contact us is fine. Services as well. Featured is working as well. Then home. This is home. Now let's go back to the featured and fix this image path. Then we'll think about what to do next. So this is featured section. Okay, so this is featured section. Now for the image, let's paste in the image over here, assets, images, and then let's randomly put some front images. So we have front, they're all JPEG. So let's start with front3.jpg. Copy, and so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove the rest of the listings because we have to bring them in dynamically anyhow. So we will be needing to remove these. So Let's delete them. We need to have one static image for the reference because we have to convert it into Twig syntax. So I don't know how many divs did we have to delete. Okay, we need to keep the last div because the last div is the closing tag for this div, listing container, then listing. Yeah. Okay. Let's delete. Okay. So we have this listing container div, and within this div, we are going to place this listing div for each property. Refresh. And now we have just one static listing. We have to bring the rest of the listings dynamically, but for that we need our database, which we don't have at the moment. So I'm not going to working on this. What we are going to do is that we are going to this buy and rent pages, fix them, and then we will move on to the individual properties, fix the styles and JavaScript for them as well, and then we will come back and work on bringing in the database. So let's go to the demo project. Okay, so where shall we go? Let's go to the buy. Okay, this is front end. We don't have anything in the buy. Why not? Okay, let's check the rent page. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we already have the header and the footer. Let's bring in this section, properties. Copy. And let's go to this rent, and over here in this block, delete everything. So within this view contents block, paste everything back. Okay, so this is rent, refresh, and we have got everything except for the images of the property. Okay, we also need the background image. Okay, so this is the section properties, and we are going to paste the path, but okay. So copy, let's come back to the URL. Let's look for the URL, properties, and paste it over here. So the name was sky. So sky.jpeg. Refresh, and we have this one as well. Now we have to do the same for the buy as well. Okay, buy as well. Okay. So let's go to the rent, copy everything, and now let's look for the buy.twig, and because we have copied everything, so Control All, paste it over here, refresh, and we have this buy one as well. They are mixed up. These are too late and this is to buy, but we will fix it when we bring the data dynamically in. Now we have to, when we click on any of these properties, we should be moved to some property page. Property, let's 3. Now we have to bring in the contents for this page. Now in order to bring the contents over here, let's first check the demo project. Click on any property. So this is how it's supposed to look. So first of all, okay, let's bring in the contents first. So this is front end and this is details page. Now if you notice over here, this details page contains an additional style sheet named slider.css, and then we have over here an additional scripting file, slider.js. We have to conditionally include it in the property page, but we are going to fix this part later. First of all, let's bring in the section. So copy. Let's go to, this is property page. We need to go to the twig, property.twig, and paste everything within this view contents block. So paste. Refresh. Okay, so this is how it looks. Now first thing that we have to do is we have to bring in the style sheets. Okay, so now the thing is this, we need an additional style sheet, which is what named slider.css. So first of all, let's copy the contents of this slider.css, Control All, Control C, Let's go to the demo project, the project that we are working on. Let's go to the assets folder. This is assets folder. Let's close the images folder. Now in the style folder, let's create another file named slider.css and paste everything over here. Save. Now we have to add this slider conditionally to our layout page, because this slider.css should only get attached when we are viewing the property page. So let's go to the layout. So this is our layout page. Now over here we have to add this style sheet conditionally. So for that we are going to create a block. So this is a Twig block and name style sheet block. Okay. Now by default in this block, we have this style sheet. So in this style sheet block, we have by default this style sheet. Now, since this block has the name style sheet, now we can go to the property controller block, property twig over here. At the top, after extending the layout.twig, we can override this block. So block name is style sheet. Now within the body, if we write directly anything over here, it's going to overwrite the contents in the layout block over here. However, we want this link. So we are going to kind of extend this block. So for that, what we are going to do is that, first of all, we are going to call the parent method. And it needs to be enclosed within curly brackets. Okay, so calling this function parent will include the default style sheet. Then what we are going to do is that, let me copy this and paste this over here. Now we have to change the name of the style sheet from style.css to slider.css. So only for the property.twig file or page, we will have an additional style sheet. So this thing calls the contents of the parent block, that is the initial contents, and then adding the additional elements over here in the style sheet block. Let's test it out. Refresh and you can see some changes, not all, but some changes. We are gonna fix them in a bit, but at least we do see some changes. Okay, so view content section, property details. Now we have to do the same for this script slider.js block. So let's go back to the layout page. And let's create a block named scripts. And in the body of this script, let's move this script element, the HTML element, script element. Now let's go to the property.twig, and what we are going to do is that over here we are going to extend that block. So the name is scripts, and first of all we are going to call the parent function to include the parent block, the parent script, and then we are going to include this script. Copy, paste it over here. Now change the name from script.js to slider.js, but we have to create this file. In the script folder, let's create this file, slider.js. Let's go to the demo frontend project. So let's go to the slider.js, copy everything and paste it over here. Refresh. Okay, nothing seems to have happened, maybe because we haven't yet brought in the background image. So let's go back to the slider.css. In the URL, we have to bring in, let's go to the style and copy everything. This part, slider.css, paste it over here, then RealEstate pro.jpeg, not JPEG, it's JPG. Refresh. Okay, so this is we have the background image as well. However, this doesn't seem like this thing because we currently don't have any images over here. Once we bring in the images, then this image has certain width and height. It will push the rest of the contents down over here. So that's why our content seems to have been pushed up, because we don't have anything in the images folder, images of the property. So once we bring those images dynamically, that problem will be fixed as well. Now, if you notice, we also learned something new related to the Twig, how to overwrite and extend a block in the child Twig files as well. Now, I think we are done for today. In the next video, we will bring in the database. And once we have the database, then we can change the static contents that we currently have. Like for this featured property, these contents are supposed to be dynamic. So we will fix this in the next block. And these properties are supposed to be brought in dynamically as well from the backend. And currently these blocks are defined statically. So once we have our backend connected, then we can change this thing into dynamic elements using Twig as well. And other than that, we have to work on this searching element and sorting element as well. But again, these two things have to happen once we have our database connected, and also the toast messages. So now we are getting very closer to the end of this project. I hope you will join me in the next video as well. In the meantime, happy coding. Do not forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you so much.